Jimmy Phelan came to be the head coach of the Huskies. Coach Phelan had many successful years.
Corner of the end zone where Mark Patterson makes the catch with just 34 seconds to go.
Pull, right side, yes! Chris Polk into the end zone, touchdown Washington!
Husky football is a never-ending story filled with cliffhangers.
They're going to throw!
No, they're not!
Near misses.
Deflected. Mason Foster. Touchdown.
Close calls.
Is good!
And come from behind
Madison
wins.
wide open. Touchdown, Washington!
Relish the victories. Learn from the losses. Then turn the page for a brand new season. The latest chapter of Husky football has been graced with two compelling characters, quarterback Jake Locker and head coach Steve Sarkisian. They had only 2 short years together, but that was time enough to forge some of Husky Stadium's greatest moments. Like many head football coaches, Steve Sarkisian earned his stripes as a quarterback. He became an All-American at a small junior college in California. When he transferred to Brigham Young University in 1995, Sarkeesian never lost a beat, passing for nearly 3,500 yards and 20 touchdowns his first season. Then, in 1996, Sark and the BYU Cougars rolled into Husky Stadium, and that was his first real taste of what the Husky program was all about.
You could just see the passion, the fans, the energy, the enthusiasm. You could tell the crowd noise had to be a factor because you felt like the opponents always jumped off sides 5 or 6 times, and the quarterback was having a hard time signaling and whatnot. And so that set the stage for what I thought it was. And then I came here as a player a few years later with BYU, and it's exactly what I thought it was. I think I got sacked 8 times, and we had about 4 or 5 false starts. And so my first few memories of Husky Stadium, not being a Husky, weren't very good.
Sarkeesian and the BYU Cougars limped out of Husky Stadium, losing 29-17. But Sarkeesian did learn one important lesson.
Well, I think being a Husky there's a lot of pride involved. You know, it's not about just wearing the helmet. It's knowing that you earn the right to wear that helmet, to play in this stadium, to play in front of these fans. There's a lot of passion involved, but it's a prideful experience to be a Husky for sure.
In the coming years, Steve Sarkisian would learn what pride is all about as he honed his coaching skills. Before coming to the UW, Sarkisian was the offensive coordinator for a winning USC program working with Pete Carroll. His credentials were first-rate, and his reputation? Well, some people put him at the highest level as soon as he walked onto Husky Field. They compared him to Don James.
The one special thing about Sarkeesian is when I was talking about Don James and that respect and you hold him in high regards, I think all the players hold Coach Sarkeesian that same way. You know, he has changed this culture overnight. You know, he exudes confidence, and his players buy into it, and they believe in him. And he's another guy who puts his kids in position to win. And it's amazing what he's done in 2 short years. And then to beat Nebraska the way they did on that national scene, the bowl game, it was just incredible. It was like, you know, the Huskies are back, and they're back because of Steve Sarkisian.
This is a guy that makes you feel like you want to be, you want to go up to him. You want to be part of what they're doing, and his staff echoes all of that. And he's got all of the qualities that the greatest of the coaches have had. You watch how it's happening, and you watch what they're doing in recruiting, and you can see that there's a great future to it. You're encouraged because of things that are positive.
We're going to play hard. We're going to play with great effort. We're going to play with great enthusiasm, great energy, great intensity. We're going to be a smart football team.
I'm a firm believer in that once something has been somewhere before, it's a lot easier to find your way back. And this football program, granted, had fallen on some hard times, but they've been at the pinnacle of this sport before. They've been national champions, they've been Rose Bowl champions, they've been Pac-10 champions, and I firmly believe we're going to get back to that. And I said this day one at my press conference, and I'm not going to waver on it. I don't think it's going to take us very long. I don't know exactly what very long is, but I do know that we're on the right path. We're doing it the right way. We're playing a brand and style of football that we believe in.
The thing I'll recall most about Jake Locker is he is one of the finest human beings I've ever met in my life. And I think that says a lot for someone so young.
When Steve Sarkisian arrived at the UW, the Husky football program was a losing one. But there was one bright light at the end of the tunnel. Like the Don Williams song, Jake Locker was just a country boy from a small farming town called Ferndale, Washington. Ferndale was really nowhere until Jake Locker started taking the snap as the high school quarterback and made national news. Locker was a huge, athletic quarterback with an incredibly strong arm. Add to that his running ability, 1,300 yards, 24 touchdowns as a senior in high school. That's what made people read about the kid from Ferndale. The Huskies had been watching Locker for years, and as it turns out, Locker had been watching the Huskies.
I think the one that I probably watched the most, saw play the most, was Cody Pickett when I was middle school, early high school for me, and I'd watched him play. He was, threw for a lot of yards. You saw a lot of touchdowns, a lot of ESPN clips. A tough guy, played through some injuries and found ways to win games and be a successful quarterback. So I'd say I probably watched him the most and followed him throughout his career the most.
Locker's take on Cody Pickett is exactly what Husky fans eventually came to know about him.
On the field, the guy was tough as nails. He could have played a lot of other positions because he was so tough and so athletic, and I loved watching him run. Watching him run, if Napoleon Coffin was my favorite player, and he sliced and diced the defense, and Jake Locker is my favorite by the way that he would just, as a quarterback, humiliate you. He would drive you into the ground, he would move you, he was so fun to watch with the ball in his hands and trying to turn the corner and running into guys and seeing guys kind of surprised that, oh my God, this quarterback just absolutely embarrassed me, and seeing their faces and their reaction.
There was something about Locker's style where he would lower his shoulder on people. And his top 10 fullback moments, if you will, can't be matched by any quarterback. Notre Dame, taking a Notre Dame defender, and you think of a standard stiff arm where you reach your hand out. Locker puts his elbow out, extends his arm, but he coils his arm and he throws him on the ground. And just get out of here. The competitiveness, I saw them all play since 6 killers. I've never seen somebody compete and exude this competitiveness like Jake Locker.
The thing I'll recall most about Jake Locker is he is one of the finest human beings I've ever met. And that says a lot for someone so young. I think we usually reserve that kind of thing for people we've associated with over a long period of time. But Jake Locker to me is the embodiment of what Husky football, of what competitive athletics should be. He is an ideal teammate. He is a natural leader, and he is a freakish athlete. But most of all, he's a wonderful person. He is one of the most well-rounded and balanced athletes I've ever come across.
It's one of those things where you talk about leadership and you talk about what the quarterback position dies for or because of, and he's got all of that. He's such a great athlete. He's got great size, but most of all, he has a mindset of a winner, and he's been raised that way. If you talk about the most dominant player ever in my coaching time here, he's the equivalent of that because he's capable of leading a team that way, and he's capable of making those plays.
Sarkeesian and Locker were in lockstep with one another when it came to the game of football. There was game day, there were great moments in competition, but they all stemmed from a great Husky tradition.
What coaches like Don James and Coach Lambright had done for us, and what they meant to our program, what the players that played for us meant to our program, and that we weren't only representing ourselves and the Washington Huskies, but you're representing all those guys that played before you. And that's something that you know is stressed by Coach Sark from the time that he got there, and I think that it resonated with a lot of players, and it helped us to understand the platform that we could have there at UW and what we were capable of, and allowed us to kind of have that energy and excitement about playing, getting the opportunity to walk down the tunnel and play in Husky Stadium.
The Sark era is true. It's true. Believe it all, man. Hey, 1, 2, 3, go!
On September 19th, 2009, Jake Locker, Steve Sarkisian, and the struggling Dawgs play their most anticipated game of the season against third-ranked USC. Being an underdog is an understatement. This was a game the Huskies are picked to lose at home.
The buildup was, I respected them so much. I knew how well coached they were. I knew the talent they had on their roster. So there's a great deal of respect, and I wanted to make sure that our teammates understood that. But also a great deal of belief that, I felt good about the plan we had. I felt good about the practices we had, and as the week went on, I think our kids understood that as well, that we've got a plan in place. If we can just play good, sound football to give ourselves a chance in the fourth quarter, we'll be right there, and we have an opportunity to win the ball game.
I think kind of a harmonic convergence for Washington. A lot of things aligned in the Huskies' favor, not the least of which was a backup quarterback in Aaron Corp getting the start for USC. I think that was significant. We can't deny that. He wasn't quite ready to function in that environment, and Husky Stadium was juiced up for that game, as it always was. I mean, SC's in town, and everybody gets excited for the Trojans.
In the first quarter, USC lives up to its hype, and the Huskies are chasing a 10-point lead. But the Dawgs answer in the second quarter, and the half ends with the game tied at 10.
To have over 50,000 people rush the field and be on the field, and it was a little scary. I have to admit, it was a little bit scary just trying to get out of there, but what an amazing moment.
In the second half, both teams eke out field goals to keep it at a dead heat at 13 apiece. What was supposed to be a lopsided game is now a classic showdown.
I think they thought they could kind of just control the game on the ground and they would eventually wear down the Huskies, but it was as the game wore on.
With the clock winding down in the fourth quarter, the Huskies have the ball.
There was a feeling of we're going to find a way to score points here. It wasn't, all right, just take care of the ball, get out of here, let the clock run out, and we'll go see what happens in overtime. I think there was a sense in the huddle that, hey, we have an opportunity to do something special here, and let's go out and make some plays and give ourselves the opportunity to win this game.
I remember on first down to start the series, we get sacked for about an 8-yard loss. I think we started the drive with 3:52 on the clock or something, and we knew when we took the ball on the drive, we wanted to make sure that was the last possession of the game, that we didn't want to give the ball back to SC in a tie ball game. So the first play is a sack. The second play, I think we throw a little swing route, if I'm not mistaken, to Chris Polk on our sideline for maybe about a gain of 6 yards. Talked through a play that we were hopeful of getting the coverage that we wanted, which was Jermaine Kearse on kind of a middle read versus their nickel. And Jake makes a great throw, Jermaine makes the catch, and then we kind of plot out a couple more yards, and then we get faced with a big 3rd and 1. We call a little naked bootleg for Jake, and he turns it up and runs for about another 4 yards. And then it sets up the play, I think, on about 2nd and short with maybe a minute left in the game where we had a play called. Jake kind of scrambles out to his right, and Jermaine breaks off his route and comes back. And Big completion to Jermaine.
I looked back to see where Jake was, and he was scrambling towards the right. And we are taught with our scramble rules to go to a sideline, either go upfield or come back down to a quarterback. And I seen Jake, and I just went to the sideline. He threw another good ball, and I was fortunate to catch the ball in bounds and set up a good play.
I really was still under the mindset of I don't want to give them the ball back. So we called another run play, and Chris takes a pretty good shot down there. We don't block it great, and so right then I said, okay, forget about trying to score a touchdown anymore. Let's kick this field goal.
Ball is down, kick is away, and it is good!
Danny Morovic was a snapper at the time, and then Ronnie Fouch was holding. And, you know, I got to give credit to the O-line, too. They did a great job. I mean, they were really rushing that field goal. When I saw it go through, I knew it was good, and then I looked down and I saw somebody who was kind of rolling toward my legs, so I tried to jump over him. And then I got up after that and just started celebrating with Ronnie and everybody else in the field goal team.
And I think for me, the coolest thing about it was, like I said, the confidence that everybody went into the huddle and went into that drive with, because it was something that I felt was missing as a part of our football team the first couple of years that I was there, and I think that was the first time that I really felt it and that everybody felt it in the huddle, and where we knew we were going to do something rather than wondering if we could.
The victory versus SC in Jake's junior year was absolutely a turning point in this program and getting it back to what it once was, and it will be again. I firmly believe that. I think that Steve Sarkisian came in here and he brought a lot of the same qualities that Don James brought when he came here. Different styles, different types of people. Steve is much more outgoing, much more player friendly, but still demands discipline and toughness and execution, and really has a passion for the game that he's able to transfer into his team, much like Coach James could do. And so that game to me symbolized the fact that we're back on track.
That was a personal favorite. You know, when we beat USC here, I had just been an assistant at USC for 7 years, and you know, any chance you get to play against your mentor and then beat your mentor, that's pretty special. And then to think they were the #3 rated team in America, and then for the game to go the way it did, and then to have, you know, over 50,000 people rush the field and be on the field, and it was a little scary. I have to admit, it was a little bit scary just trying to get out of there, but what an amazing moment. Early in our career here, as we were just getting a special place.
I don't think there's any question that this place, when it's redone, is going to be the best stadium in college football. I don't see how it couldn't be, with the setting, with the crowd, with the passion, with the acoustics. It's going to be awesome.
That's what it takes. And now we're reaping the benefits of one of the greatest wins in college football history.
Well, this was an emotional outburst, 6-7 years in the making. And people say, well, act like you've been there before. Well, they hadn't been there for a while. And again, I think it reinforced the enthusiasm, the energy that Steve Sarkisian was trying to re-inject into this program. And folks had just been waiting for something like this to happen, a chance to go out and just explode and say, you know, this is like the good old days. And that game was like the good old days.
It was a time, I think, after the game, you know, like you said, I had the opportunity to kind of run into some of my family members on the field, run into my dad, and kind of overcame with emotion. It had been a tough couple of years. Things hadn't gone, like we hoped they would. And I think for us, and for our program, it was kind of a turning point for us. And I think a lot of us felt that. And I think at the moment that I was able to kind of share with my dad, he allowed me in a lot of ways to get to that point, helped me get to that point. And so to be able to share that with him was pretty special. Something that, like I said, I'll hold on to and remember the rest of my life.
Jake Locker and the Huskies won a game that would be dubbed the Miracle on Montlake.
I just want to hear it one more time.
And the miracle began with Locker, who was given the Guy Flaherty Award.
it's really given to the player who they deem as the most inspirational player on the team. Maybe not always the best, maybe not always the most talented, but the guy that they feel like they can look to, who represents and embodies, you know, all the things that we want in the character of a Husky, that plays the style of football that we believe in. And for 2 straight years now, that, you know, Jake Locker, you know, got voted that award, and I think that's very telling to, you know, what his teammates felt about him.
24-hour rule is in effect.
And for Steve Sarkisian, a few miracles are in the making. He turned an 0-12 losing program into a 7-6 winner in just 2 short seasons, capped by a Holiday Bowl victory over Nebraska. And while Steve Sarkisian works on the Husky program, Husky Stadium is getting its own makeover. Due to open in the fall of 2013 is a new, improved facility that brings fans closer to the action with added loge seating.
The experience that they're going to get at the new Husky Stadium will be unparalleled. You know, to keep the great views, but also the amenities of a premier stadium.
It'll just keep more noise down on the field, and I think that if it's at all possible, it's going to make it louder to play in that stadium, and just a really fun atmosphere.
People will be right on top of the action. That energy, that passion, that emotion that they bring to the game will be closer to the action, and I can't imagine that it won't make for just an outstanding, wonderful, unique experience in college football.
I don't think there's any question that this place, when it's redone, is going to be the best stadium in college football. I don't see how it couldn't be, with the setting, with the crowd, with the passion, with the acoustics, and they kept the stadium exactly the same in terms of the overhang. It's going to be awesome. I mean, there's not going to be any place like it. It'll be the best place to watch a game in college football.
On Saturday, November 5th, 2011, the 8th-ranked Oregon Ducks fly into town to play the last game in the old Husky Stadium before its major renovation. The Huskies play their hearts out, but it's Oregon who tears up the field. This story does not end the way the hometown crowd hoped for, but a new stadium means a new chapter for Husky football. And if you're a die-hard Dog fan, you have to believe the greatest moments at Husky Stadium are still to come.